Okay, come on. There we go. Now we are live now.
Cool.
Yeah, if you can pull up the stream to see what it's like currently.
Sub to bat 5. Um, there's no stream up.
It's gonna take exactly a minute for it to go live. We're live right now, but there's a delay
Okay.
because if there wasn't a delay, then there could be potential problems. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm just making sure that the chat is actually on the side of the video. That's gonna just take 1 second.
Sorry to get like gruesome on the topic of mouses. I was just saying either way.
Well, either if I believe that if you're going to kill an animal, you should be as humane as possible with how you kill the animal.
I'm not saying to like torture it for fun. I'm just saying, and I agree. I was just saying
Ah,
more so of.
is the chat? Why is the chat not bloody working? So now here's the fun part. I get to do all the math that we need to do. Okay, wait. I need to pop this out. Sorry, I'm still sitting up a little bit. Pop out. Why isn't live chat available? Okay, you know what? We're just not going to have this for this stream because it looks bad, so it's not going to be there. No live chat. Well, no live chat in easy view of me. Well, I still have easy view of it actually. So this, okay, yeah. So this was, if you're watching this stream, you can see kind of what I'm.
I'm
Got.
trying to tune into your stream, but there's still no stream.
There's no stream.
Yeah. I'll reopen YouTube.
Oh, that says it's private. Oh, that's why it is. Give me a second. Sorry. Yeah, that's explaining the details.
It's all good. I'm talking, but I'm also reading something
Mm-hmm.
because I got an English assignment and I probably procrastinated too long on it. But I can multitask.
Yeah. What's your English
So,
assignment?
I have to read
Okay. Is it up?
four more pages on rhetoric.
Rhetoric. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay. Is it? Can you tell if it's up now?
it's up now.
Good. There you go. Now let's pull up so I can see all me comment section. There you go. So now for the fun part. So this stream I messed up because I realized in order to save I thought it wasn't going to be enough if I just craft another. So we're going to restart and let's see, will this seed work? No, this will not. That will not work. And that's also not gonna. That's not also. I'm gonna, because this is gonna be an annoying challenge to do. I'm gonna have the best. I want to have the best act. Okay, this is actually pretty. Wait, yeah, this is real. That's a really good start. So we're going to start by crafting one item. So far, we've crafted a single wooden chest. The reason why we've crafted a single wooden chest is so I can continue to be producing coal while I'm getting the other things.
Nice.
And while I'm doing this, I'm going to start now. We're going to start the calculation. The things that I will need to craft. I need to craft in order of everything. In order of the biggest things. I'm going to need to craft first. I'm going to need to craft one steam engine. One boiler, which requires 4 pipes, which is 4 items to the total, and then a stone furnace. So the boiler is the total of 6 items to my total. Then I'm going to need to craft a steam engine, and a steam engine is 8 gear. That's a total of 14. So I'm going to get this all in a document just to make sure that I'm doing everything right. Notepad. Let's pull up Notepad. Okay, I'm going to need a boiler.
Echo, but that's right.
What?
Oh, just because I have the call open and the stream open.
I'm sorry, what was that? What did you say? Power pole. Yeah, I'm just doing the calculations to make sure to see if I'm exactly how much of a margin I have.
Okay.
Steamer, boiler, power pole.
I might actually just have the stream open in a different thing so you can get viewing time.
Yeah, no problem.
And unless of an echo.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I would prefer not. I would prefer my audio to sound nice for this stream, and not just be a let's not say that term out loud.
Okay.
Notes. Steam pull, and then we're going to need a psi lab. And then the psi lab, boiler, steam, power pull, and then a total of 10 red psi. And then to make the lab, we need a total of, and then 1 lab.
We're almost done.
So we are doing another pledging semester, for the next semester. If you're interested, I would say just try, because if this is something to just try to do, and then if you don't like it, you can always leave. It's no pressure. What's the word for it?
I think it sounds cool. I just know realistically.
Well, you can just try, because because there's no pressure to join. You don't have to give any meaningful resources until you don't have to pay a fee until the very end. If you, and that assumes that you've done that you okay. I continue what you were saying, Ash.
Oh, I was just saying, I've got I had business stats this semester, and that was kind of one of my lower grades. I got a B.
That's also the nice. That's also the nice thing too about joining one of these. It will help if you ever are struggling with anything. You've always got someone who knows what they're talking about, who's going to help you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just
I'm
this
just
business stats 2 is gonna be uh, a harder version of this version, and I kind of got lucky because I got a newer teacher.
what I'm saying is just try, because just try it while it's going. If you don't have time, that's understandable, but just try it at first. Let's see, 13, 14 for the steam engine.
I just like one of my worries, and I have met your frat brothers, and they're really cool people. I just don't know if I'd get along the
Well,
best, you
well
know,
that
because like
that
it's kind of a different dynamic, you know what I mean? Because like people who've been around for longer.
well no yeah I mean you can just try it and then you'll see, just try it, and then it does, if it works out, it works out, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Okay, that's a total of 4 items for the power pole. Oh, and forgot to put the pump in. How am I going to get water if I don't have the pump?
I think another potential struggle would be commuting down there.
And again, I have a place you can, if the activity is ever late at night, because the bus is all you need to take. But if an activity ever is that late at night, I've got a mattress that you can stay at if you need.
Thank you for the offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we're just trying to get, because if we get enough members, we can go to like if the pledge class is big enough, we can go to some place very cool. For the for the last rich for the last activity before people get in.
Yeah.
Last we rented out, it was, you could almost call it a mansion.
Oh, nice.
So the more people we have, the bigger place we need, and the more money we have to rent out. So it gets, it's very nice to get a very large to try to get a very large pledge class. So all I'm saying is just try, just try. If you don't like it, you can leave. There was um, a few people did leave because they couldn't, because they just didn't have time for it. And if you do, that's totally fine. 10 gears. Scilab requires
But I'm
10.
also gonna try to start working out more because I really want to get in shape, and I've really wanted a six pack my entire life.
You do a six pack. You don't need a six pack. You just need to be doing extra. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, you just need to Scilab. That's 10 gears.
The six pack requires exercise, intense cardio, and specific ab workouts as well as food.
Yeah, and
It's kind of highly dependent on what food you eat.
well, and if you're going to be doing extra, and remember, Weber also has a gym, and it's being taken out of your tuition. So if it's taken out of your tuition, you might as well go to the gym that's already on campus, because gyms are expensive, and most of them are very, most gyms business model is kind of trying to scam people.
Yeah, I got kind of the short end of the stick there, but luckily now they're kind of starting to keep some more of their contract, and I've got a really good trainer now.
It's just, you can also get, well, we got to remember that gyms, their business models are very, very scammy. So I'm never going to get an actual gym subscription in my life, because if I do, because it ebbs and flows, but almost always they're always going to try to scam you. 10 circs. and circuits for belt. And a circ is 3 copper cables.
I hear JoJo Batch 3 is really good.
I haven't watched it. I'll watch it when it all comes out because if
It's all out.
it's all out now, okay, I'll watch it. I'll
Yeah.
watch it when I'm done. Let's see. Circ requires 1 belt for every circuit. Okay, good. And we're getting that calculations done. So yeah, there's a reason why I don't why I made sure I wasn't doing any more math classes, and then okay, those are going to require total of 2 gears.
Yeah, luckily after this, my math classes should be done.
Well, the degree I'm taking, I specifically took so I can avoid math classes.
I actually like math, but the math I'm doing kind of right now, like I do like it to a degree, but I'm just not good at the higher end math. That's why I kind of changed my mind on engineering, because like I've wanted to be an engineer or inventor my entire life, you know, that's always been something that's drawn to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, after I took calculus, I'm like, I don't think I can do 3 more calculuses realistically.
Well, you don't necessarily remember. You don't necessarily need to be to what's the word for it? You don't necessarily need to be I'm trying to think of the word for what I want to say is you don't need to have a degree in engineering to be an inventor. It helps, but it's not required.
Yeah, but I'm not that smart.
You are smarter than you think you are. Sometimes I can get mad with people when they don't see things immediately, but you are actually decently intelligent. That sounds more like an insult. You are intelligent.
Yeah, but my IQ isn't that high though. It's like 105 or something.
That is average.
It's a little bit above average, but not a whole ton above average, you know.
And IQ really doesn't. IQ isn't doesn't really matter that much, honestly. It's all down to how you use it. So if you use your IQ, if you're wasting potential, then it doesn't then it doesn't serve you in any way. Okay, so we're going to need.
Yeah, but my goal is probably to get a job called the Radical VP of Marketing, since it can make uh triple digit income.
Triple digit? You mean?
Oh,
Okay.
6 digit. Sorry, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. What are you? I think the only way that people can actually survive on that kind of salary is if they're what's the word for it?
$3 a day.
Well, like monks technically don't get paid that much, but they're able to survive because they're monks. Everything they have gets paid for.
Oh, fair.
like it's technically or well a cat or Catholic priest. They're if I remember correctly, their living situation is paid for directly by the Catholic Church, but but that is something that usually you have to get a degree in now. Which is always a weirder concept to me. That was the calculation I needed to do now. Oh yeah, elect the pump. So the pump I need a total of. Get the old calc out. Let's see, pump. Let's make sure I actually can do this. Pump 1 gear, 1 pipe. 2 circ. 6 wire. Okay, now to calculate this to make sure that everything is computing. And then we just have to do this. So 6 plus 1 plus 15 plus 4 plus 10 32 plus 10 plus 10. Okay, how do you do this challenge? I'm going.
So what are the restrictions of the challenge again?
I'm going to make sure I actually have the challenge correct. New achievements. No more than 101 items. How do people do? Because I'm trying to calculate it based on everything that I need to do it. I was trying to calculate everything based on everything I need in order to achieve the challenge, which is.
So what materials do you need to build the rocket ship?
Oh, well, I'm talking about being able to craft it to the point of where I can do everything, where I don't have to craft anything by hand. That's in order to craft a rocket ship. What is actually the requirement to craft a rocket ship? Let me look that up real fast. I mean, exactly, because there's an incredible.
Because there might be like a kind of skill tree.
Oh no,
sort of thing.
There is a skill. There's a science tree. The reason why I need to calculate what I need to calculate is I'm going to look up a walkthrough because I was trying to do this myself, but okay.
Is there a way you can get things to despawn, like the bugs, so then you don't pick up materials?
No. When I say so, it's I have to craft 100. Only do this by doing 100, and 11 items. I'm going to look up lazy bastard achievements on guide because. 40. Okay, I was miscalculating something, so I can do this, but I'm just gonna restart just to make sure that I do this right. I was looking up a Steam guide.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that everything needs to be crafted by hand. I mean, usually this game it's impossible to craft the rocket by hand, but this challenge basically says you can't craft anything by hand after the basics of the setup is done. So according to the guide, I had some miscalculations. Okay, so each time I craft something, it counts to the total thing because sometimes some things will craft more. So I should be able to do this all, and I will have how many items? I will have enough room to do the chest thing that I wanted to collect coal while I'm digging, so this doesn't become too painful. So. I'm just gonna get this taken off now. Properties.
You might want to calculate your other farms as well.
Well, it's nothing that I have to I don't have to calculate that too much because it's just I was looking at the calculations of like a Steam walkthrough of people who've already done it, and so the thing is I just can't craft items by hand. I just need to get in it once I get an assembly machine. So I'm going to need a total of yeah, okay, this is gonna work now. So what the basic thing is, because usually when I'm playing Factorio, if I need something like quick, I just have a large amount of iron and other stuff in my inventory, so I can make it. The challenge for this is I can't do that. No, do that. So now I'm just going to have to mine iron manually for a bit. Let's see how much iron in total will I need for this. Let's put my iron in somewhere. So let's see, 4, 31. Okay, let's see. Let's see, 4, 35. 5, 71. Okay, about 71. Once I get to about 71, then I'll be good for right now for that. Let's scroll myself out so I can see that my coal machine is still being powered by the time I get 71 iron. Let's see, what... Do anything interesting yet? I mean, do anything interesting recently?
Oh, anything interesting for me recently?
Yeah.
These next 2 weeks are going to be kind of busier for me. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much. I have a 4-page essay that I need to finish. But I worked on it a lot. It's about about death and some arguments for and against immortality. Like there's a lot of arguments both ways, and then I have to do it through multiple perspectives. With my perspective, it's gonna be fun.
That's cool. I'm making a documentary.
Fun.
So I'm trying to learn how to like edit and stuff.
If you send me files, I can edit it. What are you trying to do?
I'm doing a documentary on volcanoes and the effects of volcanoes.
So what's your current plans for it? Do you have a script written?
Script's essentially finished, and the person I have to interview as part of the prerequisite is finished. I just have to kind of still calculate where it's being inserted, but I have a practical overarching plan for it.
If a suggestion, if you don't want to show like your face and you want to make it look more professional, you can find free stock footage on the internet.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna do voiceover because I feel like I'm just not that animated.
Well, yeah. It's one of the most boring. Well, one, I don't believe in showing my face on the in any way. So any content I have created, any edited stuff, if you don't want to deal with it, if I can do it, it really will take me no time if you send me stock footage and where you want the stock footage, at which line, just mark what stock footage. If you send me files, I'll do that for you for if you want me to, because that's really bloody easy for me to do.
I appreciate it. I'll update you, but I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Except one time I was doing a video project for an activity I was a part of that was for a school project. I accidentally exported the video as a TIFF file, which renders every frame as a still image. So that means it was about a 30-second video, 24 frames. 24 frames in a second. You can imagine, yeah, that's a lot of pictures that just got created.
Well, that would be painful.
Well, it's not too bad to delete. It's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah. When I start doing YouTube, I gotta learn how to edit and stuff.
I mean, that's the main reason why I'm doing live streams now. Live streams are at I have like a hierarchy of what I consider content. When I consider like content of how actually difficult it is to make. Live streams are the easiest form of content to make, except for some of the technical difficulties. Then like short form content like TikToks though are so very bloody easy to make. Then standard like YouTube.
That's so true regarding the TikToks.
Like I understand, like live streamers have a tendency to complain, saying this is hard work. No, it really isn't. You just have to be entertaining and stick a mic up to your face and just talk into a camera. It's very easy to keep talking.
I personally probably wouldn't want to do face cam.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying in general. Like this is a live stream. I just stick a mic in my face, turn on a camera. I mean, turn on the camera to capture the game.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean by that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because well, let's see, and then it comes next, edited video content like YouTube videos. It can depend on what kind of YouTube videos you're doing. Like I really love Wendigoon, but the production side of his but the filming and editing part of his videos cannot take up that much time. It's mainly just research for him. If you're not familiar, it's a guy who turns on a camera and talks to the camera.
Oh, cool.
He made a video recently on not the Apocrypha, because people will consider the Apocrypha canon, and books that were being claimed to be part of the Bible that have several theological just horrid theological implications of just very, very stupid, like the infancy gospel, which is just no. The infancy it's like what that means is like someone trying to fake a book of the Bible. The infancy gospel. Well, I mean, it's someone saying that's trying to say that this book is holy ordained. And the infancy gospel, it supposedly, and this is discredited by basically anyone who's talking about it. Every theology, I mean, pretty every denomination of Christianity says but part of it like has Jesus just um hurting kids that are being mean to him. I'm completely serious about this, which is just kind of the
Wait,
exact
what?
opposite. Yeah, no, I'm serious about this. Then there's also, well, all of this is considered there is debate among like Protestant and Catholics debate on what books should be included in the Bible when it comes to the Old Testament. A Protestant Bible and a Catholic Bible are different because there's theological disagreement. And I'm just talking about standard Christianity. But then that gets. But then there's there's a bunch of different texts that claim to be written under holy influence, but theologically those points are very very contested. That's the word I'm going to say. Where's the stone? There's a stone. I need some stone.
But I think everyone kind of has overlapping views to some degree, not 100% in Christianity, like being kind to your neighbor, etc.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, there's basic. Yeah, no, that's basic tenets. I'm saying that there are some things of that. That gospel is there's some things that are considered just direct blasphemy. Gnosticism is considered direct blasphemy because it is by its definition blasphemy pretty much. If you look at how the text is considered, because Gnosticism says that the idea is that there is that there are many different gods, which is just completely which is contradicted by the Bible, that God in the Old Testament and God in the New Testament are different, which there's a reason why Gnostics were ostracized from the early church for heresy. And then there's just agreements because how well are you familiar with the Protestant Reformation? Do you know why the Protestant Reformation was started?
I know I should know, but I know George Washington was a Protestant.
Technically, Mormonism is a branch of Protestantism, but no,
I would say that 100% true, because I would just say it's a branch of Christianity, technically.
It's a branch of basically it's Christianity. We branch it based on the movements of what the faith was before the split off of what happened. So okay, so here is the grand history of the Christian church. Okay, the Christian church was founded with Jesus. Then after he was crucified, Peter was made head of the church. And then this gradually, Peter was executed under a backwards, with an upside down cross. That's where that symbol comes from. You know, the inverted cross. Yeah. And then after that there was some split with a group called Coptics, which they didn't like the idea of they weren't really close, basically. And then churches kind of spread around the Mediterranean because that's the easiest way to spread. And the New Testament was written in a form of Greek that most people that it was a lingua franca of the time.
But wasn't Paul also part of that too?
Yes. Paul was a missionary.
Yeah.
And then part of the Bible is part of the New Testament is just letters that Paul sent to several churches. And then there was a split between the Orthodox and the Catholics. They split. The Orthodox are more concentrated in the Balkan and Russia. That's where the Orthodox are mainly or the Greeks mainly. And then basically it just continued on. The Catholic Church continued on, and the Catholic Church mainly operates on two things. operated by telling the Bible in Latin. Pretty much, that's how the church, that's how masses were done, by just doing that. And the Catholic Church, they make money. They got very, very rich because everyone was paying tithes to them.
Hmm.
And then kings, and it's not a good look. And it's not a good look to oppose the guy that for kings to oppose the guy that God says is. But there was a priest named Martin Luther, and
Hmm.
at one point the Catholic Church were selling a thing called indulgences because the Catholics developed an idea called purgatory. The idea of purgatory is that
I do know about indulgences
well, okay,
and Martin Luther.
do you know what purgatory is? Do you know the concept of purgatory?
It's where like people could pay off their sins.
Well, no, that's indulgences. Purgatory is before you enter heaven. You have
Is,
to. The idea
is
is
it
that
the whole Dante's fire?
not
I forgot
necessarily
what.
that expand. That's Dante's Inferno is kind of, I would say, it's biblical fan fiction, pretty much. Well, not fan. What's the best way to say it? It's a story written using the frame of the Bible. I'm not sure if it was ever. It's not. It's considered a religious text. It was written by the poet Dante Alighieri about him walking through heaven and hell, being guided by the spirit of the poet Virgil, who was a Roman poet, which he was a
There
fan
was
of.
love interest.
Oh yeah, and then there was Beatrice's love interest. But we don't. But that's a different thing. The idea of purgatory is when you die, and because all humans have sin in them. The idea of purgatory is that you spend time in purgatory before you can get to go to heaven, because to cleanse yourself before. So that's the basic idea of what purgatory is.
Hmm.
And so they were selling indulgences, saying that if you pay us, it will decrease the total amount of time you have to spend in purgatory, which had rubbed Martin Luther the rub way. He nailed treatises on this doorstep of the Catholic Church, saying everything that he found wrong with them. And then the rest is history. There was a split. This occurred in Germany. The Bible started getting translated into other languages that people actually spoke, which I'm generally a fan of. I think it's a very good thing that people can read the writings that they're.
Literacy is important. Yeah.
Well, no, people could read. It was just that the Bible is written in Latin. How many people speak Latin?
Few amount of people.
Yeah, like how many people? How many peasants? Let's say that you could read, and this was to like, for business related reasons. Why would you learn to write in the language that people speak to you, or do you learn to learn one language that is only used for religion and nothing else?
If that was the only way I could get religious text, then I would learn it.
I'm saying imagine books are incredibly expensive.
I would buy it.
I'm saying this is where like I'm not actually sure how much that would actually be. Like imagine this is I forgot. Have you? Oh yeah. Imagine when you were working at the Mexican restaurant you were working at. Imagine that being a year of your wages.
A year of that?
Yeah, no, and imagine that being more, and imagine you're barely making enough to survive. That's kind of how a book would be for like just an average peasant, and even learning to read would be harder. and
It
and
would be a lot of dedication, but with the books, um, I have like for example, the religious books I read, I'd be willing, even though it would take a long time to eventually obtain the book.
well, two things that I'm saying is one, you would have to learn Latin, which is in a medieval context when you don't speak Latin at all. When an
Hmm.
average person does not speak Latin, there's a reason why priests were noble boys who just who weren't people would become priests. Let's say you had a wealthy family, but you weren't the firstborn son. Yeah, you're kind of out of luck.
Hmm.
So the idea, so you would have the some in order to what's the word for it? Be able to have a career that would be make you money. I mean, not make you money, but be able to support yourself. That's what a lot of people would do, and then you'd have to go into a lot of education to learn Latin. So this would be. I don't know exactly how long priests would have to spend, but yeah, it would be a fair amount of time. And then Protestantism came, and then a lot of people had different ideas about what the Bible what is meant by the Bible. The main one is like we have Protestantism. Major branches are in this country: Lutheranism, Anglicanism. What's the other word for it? What's the other names for it? Baptism, Northern Baptist, Southern Baptist. And then we also have non-denominational, and then which were people saying that they don't, and then evangelicals, which people have some evangelicals can have some of a lot of other spiritual issues, but because that's also a large amount of where people it can be very easily used to scam people out of their money with some mega churches of guys who just spend incredible amounts of money on very expensive homes for just them,
Oh, okay.
and then very expensive private jets, which it's not something I support. Which there's an argument with the Vatican because the Vatican is the largest denomination of Christianity, and most of their art, most of the very nice stuff they've acquired was from a very long time ago, and even with tithing.
Hmm.
Let's see. There we go. Second step acquired. Okay, to make. Going to need 3 gears, so let's make this make gears. There we go, got 3 gears. And then, what was the thing that got me on this again?
I kind of forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, yeah, I forgot what I was going at with. Well,
You
yeah.
were talking about branches of stuff.
Oh yeah, I
The
was.
branch.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, I got into differences between Catholics and how Catholic is also different.
Kind of like Great Awakening 1 and 2. Kind of that's what you went into.
The Great Awakening is that's different. The Great Awakening refers to period in American history. The first Great Awakening was when preachers were going around the U.S. Holding massive sermons, getting people kind of caught up in religious zeal.
Hmm.
That's different from what from what I was initially talking about. Okay. And now we need stone furnace, so we need 5 more stone. actually having 2 viewers now.
Right. I would promote your stream, but currently I'm working on the assignment. But once I complete my assignments, I'll start promoting your stream.
That's fine. I'm probably gonna end this in around 30 minutes.
After you end the stream, I might have some questions for you, more personal questions.
I mean, you can ask me on stream as long as it's not political.
Well, it's not political, but it's kind of more private.
Can you DM me the question and then I'll tell you if I'll answer it on stream?
Okay, but could you be like super discreet?
What do you mean discreet? I'm curious, what do you mean discreet?
Like, kind of indirectly answering it, but kind of like a confirmation, I guess,
Okay.
sort of answer to me. But like, kind of only like.
Okay, so you don't want
communication.
You don't want me to say it directly. You want like a yes or no?
Kind of. But maybe a little bit of explanation, but kind of an indirect explanation.
Yeah, got it.
After I complete this assignment, I'll ask the question.
I mean, you can just I'm very curious what it is. Can you just in my curiosity now and just quickly DM it?
Okay, I'll send the DM.
Tell me when you DM'd me that.
I sent it.
Okay. That is one of the hardest things to know. But you shouldn't feel embarrassment about that question. The way that you're tiptoeing around it. Makes it harder to say. I mean, I can tell, there's no way to know for sure without like directly asking. And then remember, it's not like your life is over if someone says no to that question.
Well, I know, but I don't. Here's the thing. Is how do I explain this? I'm, I guess, confused, if that makes sense.
Listen, no one's ever gonna watch this, so you can just be. I mean, very few people are going to watch this. We can stop tiptoeing around it.
Well, that is true, but
yeah, you don't name name. We don't name names. We just describe it. Describe Is this a reciprocal feeling?
I think they're a cool person, you know. I would give them a chance, but but I'm uncertain. You know what I mean? I kind of want that certainty to know.
There's no certainty in life. You
Yeah,
gotta
that's the hard thing.
you gotta remember that. If you think you can find certainty in life, I've got a bridge to sell you. That's the only thing that is certain about life, is that everything is bloody uncertain.
Fair.
Yeah. And you just sometimes you just have to go with your gut, like.
I can send screenshots and more context.
Okay, we can talk about this later, but listen, life's short. And I'm saying this as a bloody hypocrite because I'm also terrified of trying to approach women.
But yeah, maybe after the stream I can give you a little context and stuff.
Yeah, you can. Remember, I'm always rooting for you, man.
Thank you. I felt awkward, I guess, talking about the subject, you know. But I want to be like I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, now what was I doing? No, what did I need? Yeah, one of these. So I'm going to need, how many circuits do I need? 5 circuits. Flow 5 gears. This challenge is gonna be bloody annoying. Okay, we got 5 gears, 3 circuits, and then we need... Let's just turn all the copper, because that's mostly what copper is getting used for right now, at least. Running 10 and 10.
Okay.
What was that?
Oh, I was just saying K because I completed the one assignment, but
Okay, just curious, because when you say when people say things like that, when people say gay, it can sound like you're talking to someone else.
oh, my bad.
That's fine.
Sometimes I probably sound insane for saying this, but sometimes I'll talk to myself, not like long extended periods of time, but sometimes.
Like there's a difference. Like if you're hearing voices and you're talking to the voices, no, most people talk to themselves in the manner that you're describing. It's nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm to the stage of where, if you're looking at the stream, I'll basically explain what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
So over in this area, this is where the power is being generated, and this is the machine that I have that helps me make the other machines. Which, because I can't craft anything, I have to craft everything in a machine now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be I may have to craft everything in a machine, so I'm going to make little modules to craft the basic thing, so I can get this thing auto powered, so I don't have to move everything to me. I'm gonna start having belts come this way. I'm gonna make a machine line where I can put chests and other things to be making belts
Mm-hmm.
and things that I need. So let's
Did Alex introduce you to Factorio?
I know I found this game uh I knew Alex plays Factorio, but I played Factorio because I saw a review by a YouTuber named Seth. I think it's Tanichan is the way you're supposed to pronounce the last name, but I do not know how to pronounce the last name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming it's a fake name, but it's what's the best word? It's kind of very edited videos that have comedy. I don't think the comedy would necessarily be your thing, but to me they're very, very funny. He recently reviewed this game that he was dancing around the fact that this game mechanic was you play as like an anthropomorphic animal character.
What?
Let me finish. Where one of the central mechanics of the game is you eat things. You eat enemies to get very big. Yes, and then
This sounds like something that.
the game wasn't explicitly explicitly prawn, but there was nothing inherently about the game from what I saw. And but it's like one of those things that everyone who sees the game instantly realizes, oh yeah, that was the joke of the video that he was that.
Was the game a joke, or?
I know the game was made completely seriously. From what it looks like,
Do they know about the internet though?
what?
Do they know about the internet though?
Oh no!
Like,
Most likely the people who made it were furries themselves. It was but the game itself looked like it was actually polished.
oh,
The concept had looked like they used the mechanic actually well. It wasn't just like a furry game like every once in a while on Steam a game will come up that's what's the word for it? Like recently there was a game that was the game called Sex with Hitler 3D became was on the Steam trending page because well it was 3D. It was the full title was that, but 3D at the end.
why?
It got removed very immediately afterwards because when you can submit anything to an online store, sometimes people will create interesting things. Granted it will remain in relatively obscurity, and if enough people see the game and say, oh no, this is actually very bad, this is doing something that's illegal or against terms of service, it will be removed. But that's if it gets popular. There's thousands of games.
Why did it get popular if it's something controversial?
Well, because that game, that title, that's a game that sells itself on the title.
People bought that game?
Yes. People buy visual novels that are just that, but it's just still pictures. There's no gameplay. I've played
That's
some.
interesting.
I played joke visual novels like I played the joke visual novel KF's. Let's see, it was. I'm trying to remember what the actual name is, but it was produced by KFC, where it had Colonel Sanders as a very hot gentleman.
What the heck?
It was interesting. It's basically it's reading.
So
That's
it was written by KFC, but it was some weird fan fiction of
no.
Colonel Sanders.
Okay, it's a visual novel. So basically that's okay. I'm debating how the best way to talk about what a bit how a visual novel like operates. So
Is
basic
it W?
not necessarily. A lot of NSFW games are that because it's an NSFW game. You're not there. No one's going to devote too many resources because they have a limited appeal. The type of people who buy them are what's the best word for it?
NSFW addicts?
That's not necessarily because most people who have an addiction will not pay for it. That's part of there's actually an argument about that it's very easy for children to find that kind of stuff because there's no paywalls. It's hard. It's but let's see. Yeah, it's just people who don't leave their house will tend to buy those kinds of games. But a visual novel, not all visual novels are like that. Sometimes it's just they want to tell a story. Sometimes visual novels have voice acting in them, but basically, like imagine like picture an anime character, like picture Jotaro. Let's just say Jotaro.
Yeah.
Now he'll have his line of text, and then it will just be like an image of him talking. That's all pretty much a visual novel is, and then every other character. It's
What about voice acting with a bunch of characters, like thousands of characters?
It's usually not going to be 1,000 characters. There's elements of visual novel. It's similar. Some visual novels will be similar to like a choose your own adventure.
Oh, okay.
Like you've read a choose your own adventure book.
I haven't, but I've done a choose your own adventure with Crazy Caden. We went and did an event for his birthday a while back.
I'm talking like a choose your own adventure book where the narrative is already everything. The book is completely written out.
But there's like a certain amount of endings, so
yeah,
like
there's branching
there's
paths.
Like 32 endings or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the best way I'll describe what visual novels are. They were a cheap way to because a relatively cheap way because it doesn't really the only, I'm assuming they're all using the same engine because or most of them will just use the same engine because it's just significantly easier to do that than create a entirely separate engine. But yeah, that's part of the idea of certain game of that kind of game, and so it's very easy to make some certain visual novels. So every once in a while, Steam will have that. You can turn you can turn those off by default. It's turned off by default. I have it on because sometimes some of the stuff that gets on the trending page just is stupidly funny.
Oh, okay.
It's like stupidly funny that people are paying money for this. The titles are what sells it for me. Like I remember there was a game, I believe it was Furry 50 Shades of Grey that got on the trending charts. But and I'm laughing because Why are you spending money on this, you bloody degenerate? It just makes me snicker because
How many do you think buy it because they genuinely enjoy it, and how many do you think buy it for like a joke?
I think some people like. I think because you can send games you can send games on Steam to friends. I think so.
Oh,
I think some of it just might be that people are buying it specifically to send to friends. Like I've had that happen. I had that particular furry game sent to me by my ex-girlfriend as a joke.
your ex-friend?
My ex-girlfriend.
Oh, your ex. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you had like an ex-friend and like I didn't hear about that, but oh, I remember.
You're gonna have to do like something like incredibly extreme to me for me to call you an ex-friend, because friendships just will tend to just fade over time naturally. It's very something massive has to happen before I'll call you an ex-friend. Trying to think of something that someone could actually do that would get me truly mad enough to truly just completely I do not want to see this person anymore level of, because that would be what it would basically mean for me to have to be calling someone an ex-friend. And I'm generally a live and live kind of guy. I don't. Life's too short to hold grudges. Like, maybe if someone ran over my dog deliberately, then yeah, I'd have a grudge against them, but most people aren't generally evil. People may be misguided, but that's different than being evil.
I'll be back in just a second.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. There you go.
I'm back.
Welcome back, Ash.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I like. That is a question. Like, what would someone have to do to you directly, not for you to cut them out completely from your life? Because
Um, someone for me to completely cut them out of my life is if they really, and I'm talking about really, like really, really far passing my boundaries, like super, super duper far. So like, I'm fine if people like have disagreements with me on like ideologies, right? Because that's a given and that's fair, you know. But if someone like, I'm not saying like, it's okay, maybe like I wouldn't appreciate it, you know, if someone teased or like tried roasting it, you know. But if someone deliberately like both to make fun of and to deliberately, I guess, upset me by like to make fun of um like my religious beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
I think, as well as like being really rude to like a close friend of mine or like a good friend of mine, you know.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And then I would say if someone like say I have like a set rule and someone keeps kind of taking advantage of it and going over it kind of a lot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um like after I've kind of set the boundaries that hey, back off, you know, or like hey, you're going over the boundary. If
Yeah,
people push
mm-hmm.
my boundaries, then eventually I'm like, that's when I get frustrated. Or I guess if someone attacks my family, you know, or if
Well,
someone,
yeah, that's a given statement. Like if
like deliberately tried to make my family's life hard, like someone just trying to be like malintended and make someone's life hard.
no, I won't have to do that much more walking right now. Beautiful.
Okay. Now I can submit that, and then I just have to do one last quick thing. But yeah, someone would have to really like, and I consider myself a fairly patient person. Sometimes I can get vengeful, but uh, someone would really have to push my patience and do it like frequently.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but some people I've cut off before I became friends with again before. So sometimes just like my cutoffs can be temporary, you know.
Well, sometimes it's just you don't want. Sometimes a person, whatever, someone's just making you mad at the moment. It most, which happens in friendships. Like everyone has things which they do, which for some, which bother people. But that's just part of friendship it's part of being friends and really. I'm sure I do things that make you mad every once in a while.
Yeah, sometimes I have pet peeves, but I consider myself fairly patient, I would say.
Like that time that time for a week I was hiding in your closet. I don't think you like that. You didn't say anything to me at the time, but
Wait, what?
that is a stupid joke. That is a really stupid joke.
Yeah.
Well, the implication of the joke is that at some unspecified point in time, I hid in your closet for a very long.
That'd be really uncomfortable for you because if you were to try to hide in my closet for a long time, if you wanted to sleep, you'd have to sleep on like a lot of like pointy stuff.
You would be surprised at what I can actually sleep. I'm kind of a contortionist. Not really. I can't really call myself a contortionist, but I very much enjoy squeezing myself. That sounds wrong.
I think
That
I'm
sounds
not
very
saying
wrong.
well, this that sounds fishy. What I was about to say. Um, I think you and this is just up in theory. I'm saying I think you theoretically could fit in my closet, but you would, if you were to sleep in my closet, you'd probably wake up with back or neck pain.
Well, what the thing I don't do this anymore because, um, but because other people because my parents will call me a wee bit weird, but for a long time I used to sleep in a chest that was very very tight that I kind of went into a fetal position to get into the chest.
So do you like? I'm not saying I'm claustrophobic. I probably have some levels of claustrophobia, but do you not have claustrophobia?
I will get claustrophobic. I will get more. I don't like being in a small space with a lot of people. Like, let's say that if I don't know if I it all depends. Like I'm fine being in very tight spaces.
Because I remember Mr. Frog. He mentioned he had a chest, and I think he tried to sleep in it once, but then he said it didn't really work out.
Well, yeah, you got because like just because if you panic while you're in small spaces, yeah, that can be claustrophobia. It's a natural thing. A lot of people have it.
Yeah, I would say I have a little bit. Like I could still probably get in tight spaces. Oh wait, I meant the fishy place.
I'm sorry. That's just stupid. That's just stupid.
Well,
Stupid.
I know I didn't.
I know
There's
you
so
didn't
many
mean.
things.
I know you
There's
didn't
so
mean
many
it.
things, there's so many things that like can be interpreted a million different ways.
Hell would have to freeze over before I would believe you would say that deliberately. It would say that with the meaning that you just thought of.
Yeah, but where do you rank Factorio in your top favorite games?
Oh, number one.
Wait, so Factorio is your favorite game of all time, even
Yes.
like with the Galaxy,
What game?
like Mario Galaxy or Sea of Thieves?
Oh no, it's not even close. Factorio is my favorite game of all time.
Oh, cool. I'd probably say my favorite game of all time is Mario Galaxy 2, is because I have so many memories and it's such a fun game.
The reason why Factorio, there are very few games I consider perfect. Factorio is one of them.
Would you consider Mario Galaxy 2 a perfect game?
I've never played Mario Galaxy 2, so I can't.
What about Mario Galaxy?
I've never played Mario Galaxy.
Wait, but didn't you have 3D All Stars?
Yes, but I didn't play Mario Galaxy on it.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's hard to say, like, if it, like, I really can't consider any Mario, maybe. I would say Super Mario World is very, very good. The one for the SNES. I think that's it achieved the peak of what the style at the time. I think you could call that a perfect game.
What about New Super Mario Bros. Wii and Mario Odyssey? Because I feel like Mario Odyssey was kind of a masterpiece.
It's hard to say. Uh, that is actually something really hard to say because I feel like they could have done better. It's possible to do better with Mario Odyssey.
Well, I think that's true, but you could technically say that about any Mario 3D platformer, though.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Like it's hard to
But I
say.
would. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, it's hard to say because Mario games they always tend to improve, and hmm, no, that's actually making me think a bit. Think a bit over why I would call something a perfect game and the other requirements for it. It's actually an interesting thought. Thank you for making me think.
You're welcome. It's kind of my thing to think as well. But for defining a perfect game, wouldn't you kind of have to define? Everyone kind of has their own bias, and Factorio does look like a fun game. Don't get me wrong, but would we more subject it to at the time?
Well, that's hard to say because Factorio because as long as computers, as long as Factorio can run on computers, the way that it's played is going to stay the same. The base game is amazing. The base game is perfect in what it seeks to do. I think what maybe we could call like
But what do we gauge as a perfect game? Because there's a lot of different factors in game reviews, such as there's sound, there's sound effects, there's music, there's
well,
character, there's plot development, there's character development, there's
well
villains
that's
slash
story.
enemy.
That's story. Story and gameplay are not necessarily interlinked are they can be judged on a different thing. The reason why I'm saying Factorio is a perfect game is it does everything it wants to accomplish and it has no every bit of design in Factorio is serves the same goal of the central vision of the game. Why I wouldn't call Mario Odyssey a perfect game is there are parts that are just there's just things that are just thrown in there because they needed to put time, they needed some like things to fill up some time because they couldn't think of some of the moons are just very
That is,
yeah, that's why I would say that Mario Odyssey isn't a perfect game.
but in a sense, though, don't people kind of make a lot of changes within the designing process, and that's part of improving of a game? And
Yes.
like, and I'm saying Factorio, it does look like a good game, but couldn't they add like kind of like a DLC so it technically could be technically unfinished?
Factorio is done. Well, they're working on one final like update to the game just to fix it. But for all intents and purposes, Factorio runs flawlessly on pretty much any computer. I can play this on a really bad laptop. In fact, and Factorio is going to run unless I'm spamming the screen with bots.
That's fair. But would you consider any game with DLC a not perfect game?
Not necessarily.
But isn't there technically always something more you could add to a game or improve a game? Like in Factorio, you could add like a bunch of other like trees or a bunch of different ores or
Well,
ores indigenous to the native planet.
honestly, I would argue. Well, there's mods if you want to do that, but the base game of Factorio is pretty much perfect with the way that everything runs. Everything builds
Okay.
into each other. There's just it's simple enough that anyone with enough time could do it. But if you want to, but it's complex enough where but it can be very complex when you want to make it complex. Like, if once you learn, if I could very easily teach you the basics of what this game of you can figure out the basics of material goes in here, gets converted into that, and then gets turned into that. Now, with that same system, we can then calculate and build very hyper efficient bases of knowing that that yellow belts transport items at a rate of 15 items per second.
How much is it kind of idle though? Like, I do agree it's important to have idling in a game, but like, how
Oh no,
much idle is there in Factorio where you have to like wait for things to be produced?
there's nothing. There's really, if you're waiting for something to be produced, like say this iron, this is very inefficient the way that it is. It's just up that way because I'm doing a challenge. If I was playing normally, I would have these would all be electric drills. There would be burners, and then any enemy. Well, there's no. Actually, there are no enemies on this map screen right now. Any enemies on screen would be completely wiped out by now.
Mhm.
But that all just depends on exactly what I'm trying to do. That all depends on exactly how I'm going to be playing, and because I'm playing with this, no, there's really no idle time in Factorio. Factorio, the game moves at the pace you put it at.
But why is it always night in Factorio? That's been my
It's
question.
not always night. It operates on a day and night cycle. It's it's
Okay.
half of the time it's day, half of the time is night. Just it so happens the time you're looking at the game is it's dark outside.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we got that set up. Good.
Because I've made a game before, with help, of course. I made a lot of the enemy designs.
Mm-hmm.
In some of the animations, we just had like these eyeballs, and some of them were throbbing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, creating games and animating is like I wanted to animate, but animating is a lot more time consuming and harder than I thought it would be.
I could maybe make the argument like for some of the Five Nights at Freddy's games being perfect because they achieve exactly what the goal is.
What about FNAF World though?
FNAF World is different because Five Nights at Freddy, it has a very unique gaming concept. I don't personally like the game, so when I say that a game is perfect, you have to be able to like. I'm getting this idea from the director Quentin Tarantino when he was describing there's perfect movies, and it's not something you necessarily like, but it's something that you know that they did exactly as intended, and it's for every detail in the thing is for.
So it's like Marvel Infinity War
Oh,
slash End.
Marvel movie. I don't consider Marvel movies really movie. It's hard to call Marvel movies perfect because they're not singular things.
I do like Marvel, but lately I do feel like they have been kind of falling off.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, Marvel movies rely on the fact that you've seen the one before them.
That is true, but I would say their finales were really well orchestrated though.
It'd be Marvel movies are kind of like television, so I don't it's hard to say like you're getting the old man yells at cloud, but no, Marvel movies I don't consider really movies. They're more they're serials. That's the best way to say what they are. And you may like them, but as like movie as like films that stand apart. Like again, I have specific things of what I believe movies should be.
I like Star Wars a lot. The eighth movie was kind of meh, and the ninth movie was kind of meh. And I wish they would have done kind of better in the seventh movie, but
The seventh movie was okay. I don't like the other two. I don't particularly like those other two, but you could make an argument for like if we're because Star Wars can be considered because it did accomplish is you could also maybe say is a perfect movie with the way that it sets up a tone. I'm the original three-star trilogy.
mhm.
It's always hard to say. It's hard to say. It's hard to define perfect things. But for what it is, the original Star Wars trilogy was perfect. Was perfect for what it was.
I kind of like the prequels though.
Yeah, I'm saying that. Listen, I do genuinely like the prequels. The prequels have their goofy bits,
Yeah, that's true.
but the thing that separates the prequels from the recent Disney movies is the prequels have had a coherent vision of what they wanted to be.
Yeah,
It may have been a flawed vision in some parts.
yeah. But I think that's why they're adding a lot of shows to like cover. And I feel like Rogue One was really good though.
Well, I don't. The way that they're doing Star Wars, there's a thing where you can create a too much of something. When you create too much of something, it devalues the product. So I'm not necessarily a fan of what Disney is, how Disney is doing what's with doing Star Wars now, making more of a cinematic universe.
I kind of did like Mando though. Like I
Mando,
don't have
the first season of Mando was great. It was very good. But what I'm saying is that I would say that certain things should only like come if you make too much of something. It's harder to make that thing good.
yeah, that is true. I did like aspects of the Book of Boba Fett, but I'll admit it was kind of wishy-washy, but I did like the Bad Batch and Clone Wars season 7. I did like all of Clone Wars, but
hmm
and I did like Rebels too.
People have
And I
mixed.
hear
Oh, so
Andor was really good.
again, I just don't really have faith in in the Disney Star Wars stuff. So unless I'm and it's just hard because that's the other thing with TV shows.
Hmm.
And because if you're giving like homework to watch, like if shows all interconnect, it's hard. It's very hard for me to actually care now about them because if they all interconnect and I have to see something, if I feel like oh I have to watch this if I want to watch this, it's hard. Like I like One Piece a lot, but I will fully admit One Piece is because of the way One Piece is being structured now, how long it is. It's very hard for someone who's just starting out to get to get into, and that's not that's not particularly a good thing.
I do agree with that, but isn't kind of any series can be kind of extended and continued? Kind of like eventually, if all of JoJo does get animated, which I hear part 7 is really good, and I hear that it's going to be really expensive because to animate horses, but
Not
theoretically, if they animated up to part 9, isn't that a lot though? Like of episodes?
well, it's hard to well The thing that you can say about it is that what's the word for it?
I would watch it. Don't get me wrong. Even if I had to like start at the beginning, I'm just saying.
It's harder because it unlike certain things like let's say Star Wars. What's the best way to say this? If a series just only applies to itself, it's easier. But if it all connects to like a bigger world, but then I'm trying to not contradict what I previously said about because you could argue that each JoJo series is actually you can say because most Marvel shows are taking place at the same timeline. All of the DC shows are taking place at the same timeline. Are taking place pretty much on the same timeline.
Yeah.
So that's where we can get that's where we can get a complication.
Regarding time, that could also bring complications.
Like I have things that why Disney Star Wars because George Lucas had notes for how he wanted the next Star Wars movies to go, had how his creative vision, and Star Wars should ultimately be George Lucas's creative vision. He sold it to Disney, which is one of the stupidest things you can do.
But I feel like Dave Filoni tries to follow it though.
Well, no, because the Disney isn't following any of George Lucas's vision for the series because
Dave Filoni does a little bit.
no, they don't. They're not going to because toy sales because George Lucas still has any sales of toys that are characters that he originally created. He gets a cut of. So that was part of the reason why George Lucas became so very very rich, because he got rights to the toy sales, which with Star Wars, there are man children that still have incredibly expensive Star Wars toys.
Yeah, my dad says he had these collectibles that he says now are worth like they were Star Wars collectibles, some sort of thing, when he got them for Christmas, and he says they're like thousands of dollars now.
Does he still have them, or did he get rid of them?
He got rid of them, but he's kind of sad about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Star Wars. But that's part of the reason why George Lucas got so wealthy is that Star Wars stuff became. It's hard to say because because if people think that something is going to be valuable, they'll buy a bunch of it, and then like toys, it's really hard. Like as I said, I got a book that was printed 80 years ago. I'm about 5 feet away from me. It was I got it for $20 because that's something people aren't really looking for that exact book printed from that exact time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it all very much depends. Now let's see. I would consider Dwarf Fortress a perfect game because it has developed and maybe another category for a perfect game is it does something very unique for the genre of what it is. That might be that might be another category I'll give. Because it's hard because I would consider Half-Life to be a very good game, but it has some issues. It's hard because it's hard to say from being a game that's perfect and historical. So that is hard to say. Okay, here's a challenge. Um, under like under like the some of the things that I've said, define a perfect game, but I'm trying to think of like counter arguments for why Factorio is not a perfect game, and because it does have flaws.
I it does seem like a fun game, but I
Well,
could probably say
you think of a game that you consider perfect, and then I'm trying to think of things that I can say why Factorio is not a perfect game. With the criteria of I'm saying that the mechanics work exactly as designed for what the mechanics serve the game perfectly. That's kind of what my criteria is. Think of like a game that you love dearly, and try to think of what flaws it has and what could make the game better.
Mario Galaxy 2 is my favorite game of all time, and I would probably consider that a perfect game, but partial of that is nostalgia. But um, you could probably always add more movement to it, and you could add more characters, like playable characters, because there's only two playable characters.
Well, I would argue that I'm saying something that it would need to make it better.
Well, I'm
Like
saying a variety of characters could theoretically make it better.
oh,
Um,
I would argue with the Mario game, that's kind of adding too many characters and making because what's the point of adding a skin? Like let Luigi and Mario play differently, and then if you're adding more characters, you would want to make a level different. So you would want to make design levels so that the strengths of both characters can work because.
oh, that's fair. They could make Galaxy multiplayer.
Well, then we'd have to think of the video because some video games should not be multiplayer in any way. I would argue that most 3D Mario games should not be multiplayer because it'd be very hard to implement. It'd be very hard to implement, and it would detract from the total experience rather than adding to it.
That is true. I think P2 though, the Luma can do a lot, but I feel like the Luma should be able to do more.
That could be something, but then you have to think of what reason would the designers not want to do this.
Probably because if the Luma does too much, then I guess it could take away from the platforming or make it easier.
And then that's what I'm saying, because if you can think of a flaw, and then you can think of a reason that besides it will make work for the developer, it will make the game harder to develop if they do it that way, then we might have what I would consider a perfect game on our hands.
I think there could also be more power-ups in Mario Galaxy 2. They had a lot of new creative ones, but they could probably always add more. You don't want too much, but they could probably add more.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then when it comes to power-ups, you want to be careful because not too many, and then they're spending time on stuff that doesn't really matter, not enough, and then it comes down to.
They could add more mini bosses. They do have a fair amount of mini bosses, but they probably could have added more mini bosses in the second game.
And then that would lead the next question that you could lead on to that is, are the mini bosses actually enjoyable? Because I know in some games, they have boss fights because it's tradition.
Yeah, the mini bosses are really enjoyable. I'm just saying you could always kind of add more, you know? What else about Mario Galaxy? They could make more challenging levels, but I guess they do have Grandmaster Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. And on the topic of, sorry. This is just like a thing. A thing to think about with every. This is just like a thought experiment, but we got to with that we got to think that Mario is. What's the primary audience for games with Mario in it?
Well, in 2001.
I'm talking about in general.
The target audience is children, but actually a lot of gamers end up being mid-20s and in their 30s. Average gamer age in 2004 was 30-year-olds, and that's when the Wii was released.
Hmm. But not all gamers will buy the same games. People have different tastes. So that's also something. If you can you have to target like a specific. You want to have a specific player in mind that you want to target with your game. So it's
I think that is true. You should have a target audience, but I also think there should be more than just one target player, because you might want to, like, I guess Mario 3D World, and I don't, well, it's kind of hard on this one, but it targets different audiences, right? Like, there's like the casual party, there's the solo experience, you could do the duo experience, trio experience, quadruple experience,
that's all
but
that
there's also casual. Some stages are kind of made for single player, but that's kind of to be expected, and
that
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 can make it harder to four player.
that's always Nintendo's main audience is casuals. That's what Nintendo's goal has been from the start. So I would argue that for a perfect Mario game, having it be too complex would hurt the game.
But I think there's a lot of people who want, I guess, a challenge in complexity at the same time, because in 3D World, the further along you go, the harder it gets, and the more things you have to pass off, if that makes sense, to get to the hardest area. So
Hmm.
to a degree, there should be grind. Sometimes it might be a little bit too much for people, but I do understand a grind and making it gradually harder for someone. But I think it has to have a good amount of progression combined with creative ideas, because in 3D World, and I understand it would be really hard, but in 3D World, they kind of had to reuse a lot of new areas. And I do think they could create a Mario Galaxy 3, but I don't think they could create. Maybe they could make a Mario Galaxy 4, but I think there's a point if you make too many sequels of something, the kind of product kind of crashes, kind of like Skylanders. Like the first, second, third one was pretty good, but I know a lot of people were kind of iffy on it. And then the fourth game was really good, but then it kind of plummeted from there, and that's kind of what led to
Well, well,
the declining in Skylanders.
well, Skylanders is okay. I'm not going to say Skylanders is a scam, but Skylanders is a cash grab.
It kind of was a cash grab, but they did put a lot of effort into their story, and it was a creative idea, the whole toys to life kind of sort of idea, because at that time it was kind of revolutionary, and a lot of their animators and the plot was really good, because I feel like at some point you run out of a plot with something. Like, I guess with a generic character you can kind of change it up. For example, like Samus, Mario, Sonic, you can change it up. But in certain stories, if you keep kind of, you can only go so far into the future, you can only go so far into the present, you can only go so far into the past where you start overlapping in storyline.
Well, there's only okay. What's the best way to say this?
Because sometimes there's got to be some aspect of realism, and there starts to become a really big overlap regarding time, which makes it less believable of a story, if you get what I mean. I'm not saying there's a constraint of timeline, but overdoing in a time, so like doing 5 years apart, well, I guess it kind of depends on how well, and depends on the type of story, but it depends on how different you can change the environment, because otherwise you're getting really close to scraping the surface of another thing you already made.
That's well. Even then, there's only so many basic stories that can. There was a finite number. There's a fine basically. every story that is told falls under falls is similar in a lot of ways. There's only so many stories that humanity tells, and that you can always find patterns in stories.
Well, that is true. There's general overlaps within storytelling, but people are different and everyone kind of has the freedom and differences in thinking. Even people with similar personalities can have different outputs. Like, it could be practically the same story, but, like, for example, in real life, and I know this is more of like, you could ask um, someone you're similar to, you know what I mean? Like, I could ask you and someone you're similar to, or very similar to, ask what happened. Do you know what I mean? And if I were to ask you guys both individually and not around each other, you guys could tell me a different story, although you perceive things a lot the same. Like, there might be a lot of overlap within what you saw or how you perceived an event, but you would ultimately phrase things differently and add. Someone might lose a detail, someone might gain a detail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What?
So I feel like there are infinite stories, but there is general overlaps within storytelling.
That's what more of what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's I'd have to think about this and define everything before I fully elaborate on this point. But what I'm meaning to say is that in general, humanity has a fixed number of stories, and every story we tell is just some variation of those stories.
But what about, like, technically, if that is the case, which I guess I can get behind that due to, like, my religious beliefs, you know what I mean? But if someone theoretically, whoever made the first story, does that mean they technically own a copyright on all stories because technically they invented the first story ever?
Not really.
First, they would create stories to entertain each other. So the person to create the first story, if everyone kind of expounded on that story or used some sort of overlap within that story.
I won't really say that it's like there's differences, and the differences are meaningful for this individual, but we can classify stories based on what they are. Like there's stories like how we can call a large amount of stories heroic.
That is true. But could someone make like a new genre, like if they left someone on like a cliffhanger or something?
Like we cliffhanger things, so stories that involve heavy suspense, but then
But in genres, can't you create infinite subgenres?
yes, but a subgenre is still meaning. It depends on what we're defining as meaningful, because that's not what I'm saying. Like genre exists, but across genre, the same type of story generally happens.
Mm-hmm. But couldn't someone create a new genre technically?
Yeah, technically, yeah, I could create a new genre. Like let's say what's a good example. Trying to think of I thought of something, but that might be a little too rude to say directly to you, so I'm not going to think of that. So I'm trying to think of, like, let's say that we all do. Okay, let's say that for some reason I decide, you know what, I'm going to start drawing faces on calculators and start making them interact like human characters. Even then I would be telling I would be telling the same what's the word for it, I'm trying to remember. Like I remember I had to briefly read Joseph Campbell's um we had to talk about Joseph Campbell's monomyth idea because like the hero's journey.
Yeah.
That's Joseph Campbell, the man with the man with 1,000 faces, because it was pointed out that, hey, most of our myths, most myths, they all follow very similar beats.
But then wouldn't technical paper writing be impossible because someone is likely to have the same idea that you have, so therefore you're copying someone initially because that thought's already been thought?
That's not necessarily what that's saying. Like, how in a technical paper you follow the format of MLA, or what's the other one? When you like
APA?
MPA, yes. That's what it is. It's not the content of what's it's not like the writing, but it's the structure of the thing.
Mm-hmm. But if there's 8 billion people and we're constantly interacting and we're all kind of somewhat to an extent affected because everyone's either an extrovert, introvert, or ambivert, and people are generally like their closest friends and people have close friends, you know what I mean? Wouldn't technically somewhat along the line someone would have to have the same exact, I guess, almost the exact same
well, yeah,
way of thinking as we do
yeah.
in 8 billion people?
We're human beings. We're human beings. What resonates with what resonates with human beings as a single human being tends to resonate with all if something that resonates. There's very few things that resonate. I mean, there's because we're human beings and we have emotions. We're all very, very similar to each other. Let's see. What's the best way to say this? So when we're trying to tell a narrative, the things that resonate to a human being now, like let's say a modern human being, because what do most people want in life?
Success.
Let's not say success. What do most people want? What do most people need?
Money, food, water, AC, heating.
We don't need AC. We don't need heating.
I would say it depends on where you live, but
those are luxuries in most cases. Like,
then shelter, food, water.
Okay, what does humanity need to? What does humanity need to continue?
Reproduction.
So in order for humanity to continue, what are the things that it needs?
Energy, reproduction, stability.
Okay, I'm trying to lead you down. I'm just going to say the path I'm trying to lead you down. You were getting very close, but what I'm saying is that humanity needs two things. It needs a few things for to continue on. It needs a place to live. A human needs a place to live. A human needs another person to produce children with, and a human needs something to eat, and then that leads to other concepts of. What's the word for it? Of certain attachments is what I'm going to say. Of certain attachments, like we love because most people throughout history have had to get their own food.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads a very strong desire to of the thing. So that's the kind of the land that you work in. And then it tends to be that the land that someone else worked in, that can be where we get patriotism, or the idea of the love of the community, where you grow up in the people that also worked. and share similar things. Like most people will care more about the people that are around them than people far away.
That that is true.
Like when I know other people are suffering, it's always hard. It's always hard to appreciate someone else's suffering if you can't see, if you can't see.
But technically, doesn't nobody really know? Well, except for religiously, but doesn't technically, as humankind, we don't know each other's trials to a degree because we're all in our own lives and brains.
Yes, but as I'm saying, the basic thing that a human let's take this from purely just we're not going to think of anything with religion. What humanity needs to continue on is food, water. What a human needs to continue on and pass the genes along, which is the goal of life. And
Pure soil.
well, not necessarily. You don't need pure soil because you can farm on anything. You can farm on most soil. It's just not going to. It just is going to be very hard, and things might grow slower.
Yeah, but corrupted soil, like if it had radiation, if every ounce of the world's soil had radiation in it, you couldn't really survive because
you could.
animals need soil, good soil, because crops and stuff, and unless you had a storage, but somehow the storages were depleted and the soil was flooded with radiation. Yes, you could try to take the radiation out of soil, but
Even if the soil is irradiated, it won't kill you at that quickly.
true. But if you're indigesting it, your food that you're eating is absorbing the radiation. And yes, people could take radiation in small quantities, but if your main reliance of sustenance, that's the word I was looking for, is radiated, then that would practically be fatal.
Well, you don't a human being does not need to live that long to achieve the goals that I have said. If a human being let's say, okay, an average person goes through is able to reproduce. An average person is able to reproduce around the age of 16. So really, in order to fully raise offspring, you enough offspring to replace you, you really only have to live until your 30s and 40s. It does not really. It doesn't. You don't necessarily need to live that long. Humanity lives longer than it technically needs to achieve those goals. That's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But what we need as a species versus what's nice as a species is different.
True, but I'd also say there's also psychological aspects like social. People need social because otherwise people go mentally insane.
It also depends on how you're raised because humanity is very adaptable. Humans will adapt to whatever environment they're really put in, as long as it's physically possible for them to adapt.
I think it is adaptable, but I would say select few could do it.
And it's the select few, like when I'm saying it like physically possible, like for all intents and purposes, it's physically impossible for someone to be living in the Arctic. I mean, to be living in the Arctic, without heavy reliance on certain on specific clothing types.
Yeah.
And then like this is a rabbit hole we don't go down. You don't want to go. You don't go down because it's always variable. But if you live like people who live in very specific environments, like people who live in mountain climates, whose ancestors live in mountain climates, develop develop lungs with higher capacity.
Also, people in the mountains tend to be taller.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it all depends. Like humans will adapt, biologically adapt to environments. The only reason why we have to be careful with this is that that can be that's the predecessor to arguments about race. I'm doing air quotes. Genetic, like people trying to justify race
Oh,
science with racism, but that's why when we're talking about things like this, we have to be very careful with and being very very clear on what we mean.
yeah. I'm just saying, but people can't adapt. If there's too much thrown at someone, though, like constantly having to adapt, I don't think is really possible.
Well, one of the worst memes that I saw that made me chuckle was the idea of okay, so it was using two presuppositions. So so babies will die in hot cars because
Oh,
they
that's fine.
now let
I know
me
it's
and there's always going to be a supply of parents that are horrible that will have children die in places like this. Eventually a child is going to develop a trait. This is horrible, by the way. But eventually, a child is going to develop a trait, develop that can withstand being left in a hot car, and because people tend to be bad parents tend to be bad parents. This
so
trait will
that's
be very
kind of terrible.
yes, as I said, this is actually a terrible. This is actually bloody terrible. A horrid idea. I mean, it's a horrid example.
Yeah, but I'll DM you some of the stuff that I was talking about earlier.
Take me to the valley and lay
And I'll give some context.
as I walked out in the streets of Loreto. I saw a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, wrapped in white linen. He wanted a oh, beat the drum slowly and play the pipe lowly. I'm a young cowboy and know I've done wrong. Take me to the valley and play the rag for me. I'm a young cowboy, I know I've done wrong. Overall, I think I've done, like, I'm gonna probably end the stream now. I got something to do at 10 tomorrow, so let's end
Oh wait,
stream.
could
Yeah?
I? Once the stream ends, could we talk for a little bit and then?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Let me know when the stream ends.
Okay, we could do a pro gamer move and record it. I'm joking. I'm gonna end stream.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm gonna let it catch up, so I'm just gonna say, "Yep, I'm gonna end the stream in about yeah, I'm gonna end stream." It's nice, boys. See ya.
See you. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for participating. Have a great day.
Well,